Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. So recently Simder reached out to me and asked me if I would like to test one of their welders, and I said absolutely, because I have a lot of welding to do. I'm going to be building front and back tube bumpers for the Jeep CJ7, and I'm also going to be building rock sliders for it as well, and I'm sure I'll have other things coming along for that vehicle as well. I'm also going to redo one of my motorcycles, the one with the Nostalgia Cycle engine in it, and so I'm going to have a lot of need for a good welder. Also, one that can be easily carried around, since I'm a shade tree mechanic, and most of the work I'm going to do on the Jeep is going to be done in my backyard. So let's get this out of the box. Let's see what it comes with. And oh, you know what? First, let's pop over to their Amazon store and let's see what they show and see what they claim for this welder.
Simder provided me with 3 links. The first one was to their Amazon store. So if you like what you see from the review today, but you're looking for a different size or power welder, here is all their different welders and a bunch of information about them, videos you can watch, all kinds of information. They provided me with a link to their Facebook page. I'll put that down below, but here is the link to the welder we're going to be looking at today. This is their MIG 140, 110, 220 dual voltage. It is a gasless flux core welder and a stick welder as well. It is an inverter machine that uses IGBT technology instead of MOSFETs for the inverter. And nice looking little machine, very utilitarian look, which does appeal to me. There's the front and the back of it. Again, looks really nice. Here is the inside with a little graphic. Will run 0.8 and 1 millimeter wire, or 030 or 035 if you're living in America. 12.9 inches by 6 inches by 6.5 inches, weighs 11 pounds, so really small and easy to carry around. Here is it connected for MIG welding, and here is it connected for stick welding.
Alright, so right on the top we have some instructions. What do we got there? Oh, we have some supplies as well. Are they going to be spares? We have a warranty card. Nice. I like warranties. I rarely use them, but I like them. We have a manual. Let's hope it's good. Let's hope we have some, unlike the Vevor, let's hope we have some actual setup instructions with this one. Here's all how not to kill yourself with it and how you can't sue them if you do. Introduction, yeah. This tells us about the different kinds. Installation, unpacking, location. Oh, look. Do they actually have some setup settings, some initial settings? So excellent. That's not exactly what you'd call detailed, but you know what? It helps. Anything helps if you're a new welder. And also we have some tips, probably one in 035 and one in 030. 1 millimeter and 8 millimeter. So that is 030. And then we have a nozzle meant for a gas MIG welder. But you know what? It's okay. I forgive them. We have an adapter in case you want to run it 220. I've got a 220 outlet out in my garage, but I see no reason not to run a welder like this 120. If you want to run it 220, there's your adapter to do it. Nice that it comes with it. Here is the ground clamp and the stick welding. That's a nice stick welding clamp. You know, at some point in time, it's going to be natural for me to compare this to the Vevor welder, and I know you guys are going to ask me that. But in this review, in this video, I want to test this one on its own merits. In a future video, the inevitable comparison will have to be made. They have given us a roll of wire. I have no idea whose wire this is, but again, it's going to be tested with what it comes with. In another video, we'll probably test it with my favorite Hobart wire or Lincoln wire. What do I have, Hobart or Lincoln? I think my favorite's the Hobart. That is a 1 kilogram spool of wire, so roughly 2 pounds. And I guess the rest of it's coming straight out. Man, that does not weigh anything. It amazes me how lightweight these little IGBT welders are, these inverter welders. So there is where the wire goes. We have some exposed circuit board and wiring there. You know, that doesn't bother me, but some part of me says that's probably not the best idea to have that exposed. All right, that's all there is to it. Let's take a look at the how much MIG lead do you get? You know what? That's a pretty nice little MIG gun. The switch is actually contained within the housing. There's a hook, and you get, so that other stuff is spares. The other tip that's spares, it has a 1.0 tip in it. Now, what size wire did they give me? They gave me 1mm wire, so that's good. We'll test with that. I like the fact that the trigger is enclosed in the gun and not something that's just kind of tagged on as an afterthought, like some I've seen. How much do we have here? We have 3 feet, 6 feet. You know what? That's about an 8 foot lead. What's our ground clamp looking like? Ground clamp's fairly short. So we have about 3, I'm guessing that's only about a 4 foot, maybe 5 foot ground clamp. Yeah, maybe 5 feet. A little on the short side. And we have, let's see how long our stick welding lead is. Stick welding lead is also 3 foot. We got about 6 foot of stick welding lead. I can measure them all out exactly for you if you guys want to know, but you know what? Considering how tiny this is and how little it weighs, it can be gotten up pretty close to the work. So they're fine, I think. I like the nice longer MIG welding lead though. I think most of us are going to be MIG welding with these, so having a nice longer MIG welding lead on it is a good thing. Let's get it plugged in, see if it powers up, and let's get some wire in it. Curious to see how loud the fan is. I've heard louder. So there is our front panel. The readout is amperage, and then the voltage is just a scale of 1 to 10. You're going to have to figure out how to set that yourself. Our little button here switches between ARC, MIG 0.8, and MIG 1.0, and that's all that little button seems to do. And that's fine. It doesn't need to do any more than that. All right. Let's get some wire in it and let's get it set up. Let's do some welding. Let's turn it off and kill that fan. Fan runs for about 10 seconds or so after you turn off the power switch. Let's get the wire in it. And I'm going to go with their wire to start with, if I didn't mention, because you know what? Most of us are going to do that. We're going to go with the wire, because if this is our first welder, it's the only wire we're going to have. Flux core wire, you can't put as much pressure on the feed rollers as you do with solid steel wire, or you'll crush the wire, because remember, it's hollow with flux in the middle of it. So don't tighten that down quite as much as you would solid steel. We're going to put this back. We are loaded. Okay, let's get some material up here. Let's look at their settings guide and let's get a bead with this thing. A couple of things I do want to mention before we start, and I'm sorry I've got a fan running in the background. I'll try and talk louder so it doesn't drown me out, but it is really hot out here, so I do need the fan running, unfortunately. One thing, the feed roller has two spots on it, one for the 0.8 wire and one for the 1mm wire, and they are marked. See if I can get that in the camera so you can see it. They are marked 1mm and 0.8, so be sure you use the correct one or the wire won't feed correctly. Another thing I want to mention is this, like the other welder I bought, it comes with a nozzle on the gun meant for a welder that uses gas. And the tip is down inside of there, and you can actually see, and these are just generic MIG guns they buy and put on the welders. You can even see the holes for the gas to come through, and if you feel it, you can feel the tube inside here for the gas to come through. So the problem with that is you want about a 3/4 of an inch stick, or excuse me, you want about a 1/2 inch stick out, and with a 1/2 inch stick out, you've only got that much wire coming out of past the end of the nozzle, because the tip is inset in there a ways, and that's going to make it kind of hard to see your puddle unless your head's directly over top of it. So there's one of two things you can do. Actually, there's one of three things. You can just struggle along not seeing your puddle very well. You can just yank that off and leave it off, or you can do what I like to do, run down to Harbor Freight and for $8 or $9 get a couple of these, stick them on there, and now you've protected this part of your gun, and you can now see your nozzle and your stick out really well. I do want to note that there is a couple times where a nozzle like this will come in handy even on a flux core welder. One is if you're brand new and you can't stop grounding your tip, because this is hot, and if you touch it to the base metal with the machine turned on, you will ground it, and you will melt your wire into the end of the tip, and you will wind up having to replace the tip. So if you can't stop doing that, put this on, because this is not hot. So because the tip is down in there a ways, you will not be able to ground the tip out, but still it is a lot easier to see your bead without this on. The other place this comes in handy is if you're trying to do a lot of tack welding and you really don't want to waste time putting your hood on. You can just stuff that down in the corner, squeeze the trigger, turn your head away, squeeze the trigger, and your tack. So it's nice to have these around, but for most welding, I don't think you're going to want it on there. So let's take a look at some of these welds that I did with the Simder welder. Remember guys, I am not a professional welder. I was one once 30 years ago. I am not anymore, so I kind of only weld like most of you guys do, in around the home, the shop, out under the shade tree for my old vehicles. So these are the welds I did when I first got it out of the box and set it up, when I was trying to adjust the wire speed and get a feel for the machine. You can see I got better and better and better. And this is with their wire, so this isn't even with a premium wire. The welds that are in dark gray are going to be the flux core welds, and the welds that are shiny will be the 6013 stick rod weld. So as you can see, I got better at it, but a better wire would probably make these even better, but I was perfectly happy with these. The machine is very smooth and consistent. If you do your job, it'll do its job. Again, another flux core weld, and this is a flux core weld I did after burning through the material with the stick. I came back to the other side with the flux core and filled it in. So let's take a look at a couple of the stick welds. Where's my first one that was really ugly? Here's my first one that was really ugly. I didn't have it hot enough, then I had it too hot, then I burned through. It was pretty awful. I came back and adjusted my technique a little bit, but you can see I still got some severe undercut in here. Stick welding is a lot harder because not only do you have to maintain your speed and your technique going across, but you also have to keep feeding down at a consistent amount as well. You have to watch that your arc is going back and forth and not just staying on one piece or the other. So and I'm very rusty at it, but I do believe it is a good skill to have. You can see here I burned through to begin with, then I stopped, I adjusted the machine and my technique, and I started to get much better welds with the stick. Here is that's another just short flux core weld there. Here is more stick welding where I tried to weave over top of a previous weld, and actually had some success in there. I used to be pretty good at that. It's flux core weld over on that side. And here's another stick weld here. And oh, I showed you this one. This is where I actually burned partway through with the stick on this side and filled this side in with the flux core. So those are the welds it did. I'm actually pretty happy with it. It makes a weld that both sounds good and feels good, and if you do your job, it looks good too. If you're rusty like me, maybe it doesn't look as good as it could, but this is also, again, with the no-name brand, or at least no-name brand I can read. It's got a brand on it, but it's Chinese wire that they provided. In the future, we'll try it with some other premium brands, but it is very smooth and consistent, and it made doing stuff like that all the way across, it made that very, very, very easy. So those are the welds it did, and I did too. So let's move on and let me talk about what I think about this welder, if I think it's a good buy, if I think you should go get it, and my overall opinion of it. So what do I think of the Simder welder? Well, I really like it, but first let me get my minor complaints out of the way, because you know there's always going to be some. There's nothing that should prevent you from buying this welder, but let me get them out of the way and then we'll move on to the things I do like. First, I wish Simder welder would, and other flux core welding machine manufacturers, would provide a genuine flux core nozzle with it. Yes, you can still provide one of these. They have their places. When you can't actually get your head down into what you're looking at, when you just are doing a bunch of quick tacks, it's nice to be able just to shove this down, not worry about grounding your tip, knowing that you're going to have a decent stick out for a tack weld, get it out of the way, but it should come with one of these too. Just saying. Second, I wish the ground lead was as long as the MIG gun lead. There may be a reason for that. Maybe it just produces too much resistance, or they'd have to come up with a much thicker piece of copper, but some part of me says it should be as long as the MIG lead. It's not a big deal. The machine is so small and light, it's not that hard to get it up close to your work, but part of me just says it should be as long. I don't know. Anyway, the last thing is, and this is no kick on Simder, this is all of them that do this, is I think these knobs turn too easy. You know, you brush up against it, you've turned it. You drag your lead across it, you've turned it. You toss your gloves down at it, bump into it, you've turned it. They're all like this. All my welders, plasma cutter, they're all like this. But, and I know, part of me knows that if they made these turn hard enough that that wouldn't happen, some YouTuber would complain about them turning too hard. So put an O-ring under it, do something, make it turn harder, and those things won't happen. Also, I tend to put a piece of material down on top of the machine with the settings I like it and take a picture of it. That way I can go back and say, oh yeah, 3/16, the knobs need to be in that location. So that helps, but still, if they turned harder, it would be better for me anyway, maybe not for you. Let's move on to the things I really liked about it. First, it's amazingly small and light. It is really amazingly small and light. The manual it comes with is actually for the machine that you get in the box. I know that sounds like it should be like that in every case, but it's not. Sometimes the manual you get is for the previous generation machine or for a range of machines, and none of them really are what you have. The English is good. It's got some initial settings in it, which is very important if you've never welded before. It's also just about ready to set up right out of the box. Tighten the nut down for the MIG gun lead, plug in your ground clamp, put your wire in and feed it, and there is a nice graphic with instructions underneath the lid to show you how to do that. Great for people like me who take stuff apart without looking and then go, oh yeah, I wonder how that went back together. Or for the noob, great that it's there. Also, it runs 110 and 220, and it actually comes with the adapter to run 220, which is great. So those things make it real easy to weld with right out of the box. You really don't need anything else except a hood and protective gear, and you're ready to go. Also, it's very smooth and consistent. Even with the wire that it comes with, a non-premium wire, and even with my rusty welding skills, it was very easy to get working. It is almost boring. It is so smooth. Now, if you've ever welded in the shop, you'll know that welding is boring. When it's not boring, it's usually because it's not working correctly or you're doing something dangerous. And other than that, it's boring, and it should be boring. This machine made welding boring. It's also, if you've ever welded in the shop, you'll know that there's always a machine you gravitate to. A, because maybe it's just smooth. Maybe it's easier to lug around if you have to. But it's smooth, it's consistent, and it makes welding easy, and yeah, it makes it boring, and this, for me, it made it boring. So I think this is a really great machine, whether you are the new welder and you're just starting out, or you're the experienced welder and you need something to go back to that Jeep underneath the shade tree like me, or whether you need something to toss in the back of the vehicle to make repairs on the trail. This is a great welder for that. I really can't find anything other than minor moans and niggles that I don't like about it. This machine will be on sale from July 4th to July 10th. So the price you saw in my initial visit over to their website, it's going to be even lower than that. So take advantage of that if you need a machine like this. It's a great little machine. Thanks again to Simder. I purchased this from Amazon. They reimbursed me for it. And thanks to them for making this video happen and for letting me review their machine. Thanks to you guys for watching, using my affiliate links, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye for now.